Hello and welcome, aspirants. For your GS1 culture paper, it's absolutely essential to understand the role of heritage in modern India. But what does continuity really mean? Today, we're going to get past just the facts and give you the analytical depth you really need for this complex topic.
That's right, so let's just jump right in with a question that could easily be the core of a mains essay. Is our heritage something we genuinely live, with all its built-in systems and meanings? Or has it turned into something we just perform for an audience, whether that audience is here at home or across the globe?
So, where do we begin our analysis? Well, for a really strong, balanced answer, you have to start with a critical perspective. And that means asking a pretty fundamental question. Who is actually in charge of shaping India's cultural narrative?
Okay, so here's the argument. When powerful groups, people like former royals or big international designers, control the story, the real, authentic voices of our local artisans and regional communities, they can get completely lost in the noise. This view says culture isn't neutral. It's actually a site of power.
But hold on. A great mains answer never stops there. Saying that culture is just a site of power, well, that's really only telling half the story. We need to look at a counter perspective that gives us a much fuller picture of what's going on. For instance, think about many of the former royal families. Now, they don't have political power anymore, of course, but many have embraced a new, incredibly important role as custodians of our cultural inheritance. They are actively involved in maintaining palaces, rituals, and especially craft traditions that might have otherwise just vanished.
And this is the crucial point, right? This isn't just for show. This modern kind of patronage is a huge undertaking, both logistically and financially. We're talking about sustaining entire ecosystems of knowledge and skill, creating platforms that allow our heritage to not just survive, but to actually find its place in our globalized world.
And all of this brings us to a really powerful concept for your answers. It's called lived heritage. If you can get this definition right and use it properly, it will absolutely elevate your analysis and help you score well. So, let's break it down.
So what is it? Lived heritage is when the tangible things, like buildings or art, and the intangible things, like rituals or skills, are all connected through an unbroken system of people and places. It all hinges on that continuity of context. When that context is there, heritage is real. When you break that context, it just becomes a performance.
Just think for a second about what happens when these frameworks, these connections, get disrupted. Without a really careful transition, a living, breathing cultural reality can just fall apart. It might look the same from the outside, but the inner meaning, the soul of it, is gone.
Now, we have to be extremely clear here. This is not, and I repeat not, an argument against social reform. The pursuit of equality is absolutely essential. The whole point of this analysis is to figure out how to navigate the incredible complexity of that change.
And that brings us to the real analytical challenge. This is the heart of the debate, and it's captured perfectly in this question. How do we reform things that need to be changed without accidentally causing a different kind of poverty by erasing the very cultural meaning that gives us our identity?
So, what's the path forward? Look, it's not a simple choice between freezing the past forever or just tearing it all down. The answer has to be a dynamic one. It requires a constant dialogue where every single generation takes up the responsibility to reinterpret our shared culture and find new meaning in it.
Okay, fantastic. Now, let's get practical. Let's take everything we've just discussed and turn it into a solid framework you can use in your exam. This is how you apply these ideas to actually get those marks. For any question on cultural preservation, just use these 5 steps. It's a roadmap to a high-scoring answer. Start with the debate over the narrative, give the critique, then provide the counter-view of custodianship, define and apply lived heritage, and finally, conclude on that delicate balance between reform and continuity.
And please, make sure you're using these specific terms in your essays. Using phrases like cultural continuity, active stewardship, and contrasting lived heritage with performance, these instantly signal to the examiner that you have a deep, analytical understanding of the topic.
And finally, for your personality test, here's a thought to carry with you. This is exactly the kind of nuanced, thoughtful question you could face when you're discussing the future of Indian culture. Think deeply about this balance. We wish you all the very best.